So Temba stands up and he leaves. And the neighbor says, "But why would you want to leave when I'm about to dish up?" He says, "No, I'm not leaving. I'm going to call my kids." Good evening and welcome to Talk with Rams Live. I'm Rams Mabote. And thank you very much for tuning in, by the way. And thank you very much for also following the show. We hope you keep on inviting others. Without you, we don't have this thing happening. So I'm joined on Facebook, YouTube, and I'm also proud to say on Instagram by Bulelani Balabala, brand strategist, leader of Township Entrepreneurs Alliance, and an entrepreneur in his own right himself, a motivational speaker, a great friend of mine. Vanavit,
Hi, how's it, Rams? How are you, sir?
I'm dark and lovely, mate. Thank you. How are you?
No, you know what? I'm doing good. I mean, under the circumstances, I'm doing good. Highly optimistic. We're on level 4, whatever that means. So I'm just out here, really just adapting to the new way of living and also doing business. And also just really adjusting to being in a home environment 24/7. Because the strangest thing is, I mean, I was hardly here. I mean, I spend most of my time on the road. Now I'm here
Mm,
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's the strangest thing. I feel like
very
I
strange
feel like
world.
a kid all over again.
And that's why we're talking tonight. We're talking tonight because the issue is, and I'm gonna use your line because I love your pair of line. How do we get things done in this period? I've been used to doing my business, being up on the road, meeting people, doing this and that, and here I am now, being told by the Lord to be at home. How do I keep my brand alive and get things done even in this period?
So I really think, I mean, when I look at my personal journey in terms of adapting to the lockdown, I mean, it was obviously a big shock, a big shock and a big, um, I mean, it was a big reality shock because you're coming into this new environment, right? And at that moment, you literally all you want to do is react because I would assume one is thinking about their sales, they're thinking about the business, they're thinking about how they're going to keep alive and how they're going to keep themselves moving in existence at that particular point in time. And I really, I'm really grateful for the moment in time where I was able to literally just pull myself back and think about, is whatever I'm trying to do relevant for me? Is it relevant for my business and where I want to take it? Or am I just reacting to the moment? And I think that taking that backseat really put me in a position where I started to respond to the situation. And I think in being able to respond to the situation, one now started to take time off to really bulk up on mental strength because it really takes a level of mental strength to really be able to go through this time because you're going through a time as an entrepreneur where you potentially need to put off some of your staff members, where you potentially might not even be able to generate certain funds. I mean, one of the businesses I run, we had already suffered a robbery in January already.
Mm,
And
mm,
historically, when you look year on year in terms of our finances, you'll find that historically we are only busy between January and February. We're only busy from March, late March, all the way down through the year. So it already started as a slow month, and then you have this COVID-19. So it really does take a toll on one's physical strength and mental health. But I think in the greater scheme of things, if one is able to bulk up on their mental strength, then it really helps one to be able to deal with this crisis. And I think the moment one is really focused on developing them, I think the two other important quadrants are really the spirit and I think for me the body, in being able to bulk up and align yourself to what is happening now and also what is happening in this moment, right? And I think over and above that, now one, it's true to the saying, if you're not disrupting, then you're being disrupted or you're waiting to be disrupted. And I really think looking at this particular age, this gives us a perfect opportunity to catch up on the third industrial revolution, which is literally digital and what we're doing right now, because there's been a big conversation around the fourth industrial revolution that we've negated the third industrial revolution, which is digital. And I think it gives us a great opportunity to be able to break barriers and democratize information. Now, literally anyone from anywhere in South Africa, or rather even the globe, can literally just jump onto this live feed right now and watch to access information which is important for their development and growth. But the world as we know it is not going to be the same. Business as we know it is not going to be done the same. This is a total disruption. So I really think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a professional who's a leader of a team, or rather who's even a leader of themselves, it's important for one to start literally thinking in this moment, how are you going to do things different and how are you going to do things better?
No, I was talking to somebody over the weekend actually, and this person is they make food, and they were saying to me, how do we've now been allowed to trade again, and I've got a permit, but I've not been trading for 38 days. Now I've got a permit to trade again. How do I tell my clients that I'm back in business and that they need to know that I did not die during this period?
So I think I wanna answer this question two parts, right? That then becomes the fundamental importance of not just being able to have a corporate communication strategy, but to really maintain it in being able to engage with your clients consistently. Because I think from the moment this pandemic was happening, this is where you start to engage with your clients. This is where you start to engage with the stakeholders, your suppliers, and all relevant parties in terms of where are you in this particular moment. And keeping the conversation going. You can't. I think we touched on this a bit earlier on. You can't consistently be going to the client and wanting to sell. I think the conversation every entrepreneur needs to be asking them in this moment is, what do we need to do? Whatever our business models are and whatever products we're selling right now, what product or what do we need to be coming up with which is relevant to the entrepreneur or the client in this moment? What is going to benefit the client in being able to move over this hurdle? Because I think the biggest damage that any entrepreneur, any individual could do to their business or even their brand is trying to sell something to a client which has got nothing to do with their growth in this moment. I think it's also in understanding the psyche, and the psyche right now is, I want to survive. I want to survive the immediate hurdle. I want to survive the immediate storm. What do I need to do to survive the immediate storm? And if the product doesn't speak to that, be open and frank with your clients in the fact that it doesn't speak to that, and keep the lines of communication going. And I think it goes as far as being able to engage clients and bring information that is upbeat to their specific industry, even if it doesn't necessarily mean money in the bank for you. And I think for me, that then goes a long way in being able to retain the client, because the whole point of clearly communicating with clients is literally to build a long-term relationship with them. And when you're able to build that long-term relationship with them, that in itself is retention. They won't go anywhere.
Let me acknowledge friend Eugene Zwan, an entrepreneur. He's on Facebook watching us live, and I have not seen other people coming in as normal, but I'm sure they will come in and speak. I'm hoping to get questions from hustlers. You know, these are the people who are out there who need to be asking me the questions. I can ask you as many as I want to, but people must ask us the real questions in their own businesses. Then there's the issue of cash flow. COVID has hit us all badly in our pockets. Do I still have the responsibility to invest a bit of my money to keep my brand alive, even with no certainty that next week I'll hear, fellow South Africans, we can go back to normal life?
So I think, that's a very good question, right? And I think for me, I think that that's the most immediate question I needed to ask myself and even answer. And I think my answer is literally yes, because when one goes into business and when one ventures into anything, you don't know whether it's going to succeed or not. But
Yeah,
with that level of faith, you put your whole weight behind it. With that level of uncertainty, because literally you could fail. The only difference now is that everyone is in the same gauntlet and everyone is in the same situation as you in this particular moment in time. But I think the real differentiator in this moment should be, if you really believe in your business and if you really believe in what you truly have, then you continue to invest. Maybe you might not be investing in maybe you might not be investing in the same traditional media platforms. Maybe your focus might necessarily be digital and being able to use your AdWords and SEO optimization,
yeah,
and being able to advertise on various social media platforms to keep the brand alive, but also using inbound mailing systems. I really think it's important, but I think over and above that, this is the time where big data becomes very critical. The data
mm,
that we've been collecting and the different clients we've been dealing with that have been coming into our offices, our shops to print stuff, to that we've been creating invoices for. This is the time when one goes back and sits and analyze what has been the customer pattern for these clients. Who are
mm.
these clients? Gather all the necessary information for you to be able to engage with these clients in this particular moment.
Let's talk about a different kind of entrepreneur, and I'm going to count myself as one of those content producers. Say it could be an author, for crying out loud, it could be a poet, it could be an actor. How do they, when they're not producing anything new, is there room for me to go to old product and put it back on social media and remind people of the work that I've done, remind people of interviews I've had with different people in the past, of some of the content I created in the past, or would that not make any sense to do it now when it's something that happened 3 months ago?
You know what? I really think that particular content is very relevant. I really think it goes back to how does one package it and for what mediums one packages. My view has always been from one content piece, from one content story, one should be able to extrapolate it into multiple. One should be able to extrapolate it into multiple series and also multiple products for different platforms. And
Yeah.
I really think that is what builds longevity. I mean, you take a 1 hour video. If you are able, if you are someone who understands content, then you'd be able to extrapolate it and use it over the next 60 days or even the next 90 days, being able to use it in the wise way, because content in and itself becomes king. And I really think that we look down upon content, but think about it this way. One gentleman used to say this to me years ago, right? He used to say, think about it this way, Bulelani, there are so many people out there, right? Majority of them have got nothing to do. They're not putting anything out there. This is the time where you need to be putting stuff out there. Whether one individual watches it or two or three, doesn't matter. It's not really about the numbers, but it's about the authenticity of what you're putting out there. Because if you do it right enough, at the right moment, you'll start attracting not the large crowds, but the right crowds, the crowds that are going to be linked to the crowds that are going to be linked to your content, and it's going to start to pay. And Malcolm Gladwell summarizes it nicely when he talks about the 10,000 hour rule. And this is the same 10,000 hour rule that we need to be applying in our business growth and in our content development. And remember another thing, Rams, everyone has a story. We're not telling that story. And this is the
Mm.
moment for us to be starting to share that story. And someone was saying to me the other day, everyone is on live. In actual fact, not everyone is on live. Everyone should be on live, because those are the
Yeah.
stories that we need to start hearing. Because we've grown into a generation where the narrative has always been painted for us, but this is a great opportunity for us to start painting the narrative for the next generation, but also for our peers.
I've been fascinated personally by the work that's been done by DJs in particular. I mean, the guys have gone live, the guys have done shows on platforms and gone live. But one can argue that, their product is such that they can play music, then we all can dance from home. So it makes a bit of sense. But I've also seen, a personal friend, Fred Kumalo, who's been reading on air. He's an author. He's been reading on air. He's reading for kids, but we get to remember that Fred Kumalo is an author. even though he's not reading his own work, but he's reading on air, everyday live. He's doing that. So I find that very easy. But and I think a chef can do that. I think that somebody who produces cider from home, I hope there is somebody like that, can do that, and we can watch them, and we can all produce cider. But what do I do when I'm a painter, as in a house painter, not an artistic painter? When my job was a plumber, I mean, I can't be showing pipes on live and showing people this is how I do plumbing at Bulelani's house.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can't do that, right? But
Yeah.
this, you definitely can't do that. But this is the age of, this is the age of people respect, and your brand affinity grows more when you are able to share with people. Now, that plumber who's been painting for the past 5 or 10 years could be doing videos or even writing blogs about how to maintain your house your own way. I mean, we're on level 4, hardwares are open, and being able to document videos of him fixing the most common things that go broken in the house or that go broken in the office becomes critical in this moment, because people will always remember you for the good stuff that you've always shared if you build the affinity in the right way. Whether there's someone who's in construction or someone who's in paving, there's always a content element linked to, especially if you're selling B2C products or services. There's always going to be an element where you are teaching the consumer how to better take care of and how to better protect the product that you have sold to them. So that really then becomes the aftercare knowledge that you utilize to then grow your brand. It's literally, that's the best way of selling, but you're actually not even talking about sales or products at the end of the day.
Uh, Thank you very much, Yvonne and Pilani Japa, for joining us. They're all watching. For some strange reason, I think people think that you're too good. Nobody's asking you any questions, but people are happy to be watching to be watching you. I
I
promise
hope
you.
I'm not intimidating anyone.
No, I think that you're too clear, so nobody's worried about whatever questions they need to ask you. Branding. Now you're in the branding business. You run a branding organization. But let's talk about T, Township Entrepreneurs Alliance. It's a movement you started. It goes out. I mean, now it has become a continental movement. I'm so chuffed by the work that you've been doing. But the regulations have now told you not to move. You can't do this. You can't be going around to Kailita or to Zimbabwe or Botswana, hosting or sharing tea with people. So question is, how do you then keep tea alive? How do we join
So,
you for tea without us being in Botswana with you?
so I think interestingly enough, that's one of the questions we've been asking ourselves since last year, early last year. And I think we started to answer that question last year around May or so, when we started to develop a digital platform. And not necessarily develop, but we started to do the prototyping. So we worked with an organization called VML South Africa. And we did the prototype, the global research, the local research, the focus groups in the country, and we actually have a working prototype. And we're about to start developing. We actually concluded first week of March, and we're supposed to be starting the development of the platform late March, and then we got hit by COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think in as far as that's concerned, because that's a very amazing platform that's really going to integrate rural and excluded community and excluded entrepreneurs into the mainstream. We're looking at ways of actually starting now because we're in level 4. But I think over and above that, what we've also done is we've taken on a digital approach. And I think the digital approach was also cognizant of the fact that the market that we work with, entrepreneurs, majority of them can't afford Instagram, to be on Instagram and watch Instagram videos. They can't necessarily afford to spend money on watching maybe Facebook live videos or so on and so forth. Now, what we have then done in that particular case is that we then package some of our content into audio and we send it out to them, because I mean that costs them
Hmm.
less than 15 megabytes for them to listen to. But I think for us, then our reach really has been, our reach has really been in depth through WhatsApp automation, WhatsApp business automation, which has worked like a charm for the frequently
Yeah.
asked questions and being able to assist and provide mentorship online for entrepreneurs. That has gone a long way. But I really think for us, it's also then stretched us in saying, then it's also stretched us, but it's also shown us the social divide in saying, even if we want to come up with some situation, with some solutions, the biggest challenge there is that there will always be limitations like infrastructure and also other solutions. And I really think where we come in is being able to share the skills with the entrepreneurs so that they're able to go back and digitize their businesses and grow their bottom line.
Look, I think we're all going to have to digitize, and we have no choice. That's where the world is now. It's not an option, you know.
Yeah.
But the question is, are our customers, our audiences, in the same digital age that we're going into? I mean, here I am now. I'm doing this. I now expecting to have, you know, thousands of people on air with me, digital, commenting digitally, joining us digitally. Is that where everybody else is?
You know, it's not where everyone is. I mean, you look at the social media numbers. I think when we did our survey, majority of the people are on Facebook, and maybe you put WhatsApp aside because that came up as number one, but majority of the people are on Facebook. And the strangest thing is that some of the loudest groups and crowds which are on Twitter, which make things trend. You know, a Twitter trend is a fallacy in a sense, because it's vain in a sense when you think about it, because it literally represents less than 10% of 5% of the country's views, but is
Yeah.
considered in such high regard. And you then find a vast majority of people are not in those digital platforms. But I think one then needs to then look at the relative industry and decide, how do I then start to provide education to my clients so that they're able to understand how to digitize? You know, in every business change, the clients that have been there with you the longest are either going to adapt or they're going to leave you. And that's part of growth, you know. It cuts across the board from digital to every other business growth. Whether it's you moving your business to another level, you changing the product, you starting to sell a product 10 Rand extra, you starting to add VAT to every product, that's really going to disrupt the clients that have been used to your product a certain way. And if you are not able to change or adapt your business for growth, then the business is not going to grow at the end of the day, and it's going to stifle your growth as an entrepreneur. So you're really going to need to bite the nail and then decide you're going to grow. I mean, you think about, you know, there was one of the banks that decided, you know what, we're going to start closing up some of our branches, and we're really going to focus on going digital. You know, that has a big hammer on the bottom line, which is your finances. But in the long term and in the long run, you really get an understanding of where are you financially. You know, we're not necessarily financially, but because you understand and you see the long term, you get a sense of understanding that, you know, this is where we're going, this is where we want to be, and this is where we need to be right now. And a lot of consumer education needs to be critical so that we're able to take clients along with us. But the truth is, not everyone is going to go with you.
Eugene Zwane says, awesome interview with many useful pieces of advice. I couldn't agree more, Mangeti. As we round off, I've got this bother. So we're all going digital now. We're all online. We're all using these wonderful tools, and everybody is learning to do this, to sit in front of their computer and produce and keep their brand alive. How though, you know, on any given day, I mean, I switch on my phone, there's 30 people that I know who are live. How do I differentiate my life from your life, from Freddie's life, from everybody else's life?
You see, I think for me, that then has become the very critical thing, because if you blend in, and if you're like everybody else, then you're really going to just fall into the same motions. And I think the biggest thing that we're being driven to right now is what we're God given and born to do is literally to create. And I really think, you know, in business they call it developing your unique selling proposition. And I really think that if your life has got business ambitions or brand growth ambitions linked and aligned to them, it can't just be a live chat. You know, there's going to be something different about it that you're going to need to do so that you're able to draw in the crowds at the end of the day, but also it goes as far as you understanding the people that you want to go live with, there's a beautiful thing that we did a bit earlier on, on this particular show, which I thought was very brilliant and no one else does it, in being able to entice people towards the interview, which was the throw forward that you taught me about. I didn't even know there was such a thing. I mean, no one else is doing something like that. They might necessarily catch on, but the whole point of pioneering is always coming up with new things and having your competitors 5 steps behind you as you clear the path and as you pave the way forward. But if you're doing the same thing everyone is doing, then you're just blending in. There's not going to be anything different with whatever it is that you're doing. And the novelty of it is that it's going to be viewed as just alive. And I think one needs to differentiate themselves from just viewed as just alive to being a platform of communications. And I really think that the diversion tactic becomes very critical in this particular element. One that needs to, in a space that is commoditized, one needs to find a topical point that is going to entice people, not to the live, but to the content. And one of the content disseminations needs to be through, the live segment, not limited to that particular live segment.
Okay, now, I hope this is not a curveball. In fact, no, I want it to be a curveball. So when we trade and we do our business on a day-to-day basis and everything is normal, we know that normal. We've been doing what we've been doing for whatever number of years. I've been in broadcasting for 30 years or so. This is my life. I know this thing. Now we've been told something, that there will be a new normal going forward, that the world will never be what it used to be. Now here's my question. The two questions in there. One, is that an exaggeration? Could it be that actually the world will go back to normal? But that's one. But if it's true that it's not going to go back to normal, could it mean that there are other brands that will never survive the new normal?
That's definitely true. That's definitely true. I mean, you already start to see it now with a vast majority of businesses already starting to hemorrhage a lot of
feedback suddenly. I don't know where it's coming from. You're getting a feedback somewhere. I'm suspecting it's the phone with Instagram.
Yeah, I think it's definitely on your side, because a smart man like me, I already put my phone on my headset, so it's diverting the sound. So it's definitely on you, young man.
Okay, continue. And yeah.
So the truth at the end of the day is there are brands that are not gonna make it. Number one, there are products that are offered by brands that will survive, but those products and services won't make it. I really think that we need to be open to the truth that those products and brands are not going to make it into the next level, also into the next level of their growth and also their development. But I really think that in order for us to sustain that, one then needs to be able to start disrupting yourself right now so that you are able to maintain the growth and development of your brand.
So I don't know. I mean, I find myself telling a lot of people, I know the media world fairly okay, and I look at things and I find myself saying to a lot of people, whenever it's going to happen, whenever we're going to be told life goes back to normal, the media world will not be the same anymore. Yeah. But I think that that's going to happen in all other industries. Whether it's in the training industry, whether it's in football itself, or whatever it is, sport, whatever it is. And therefore, I think that the trick is for people like you, the people who are brand specialists, to drag the old brands into the new world. And I think the opportunity is going to be yours when that time comes for brands that are battling to come into the new world, for you to drag them into that space.
Yeah, but I think I think for us, Rams, I think, it's important for us to also have a much more open conversation. I believe that the world in itself won't necessarily be the same. But, you look at the social construct of South Africa, for instance, where, I look at last year's numbers, for instance, where they are entrepreneurs who don't even have email addresses, let alone a Yahoo, a Gmail. They don't have email addresses. They are trading. One such gentleman, was a gentleman out in Pietermaritzburg in KZN, is doing over about 1.5 million rand a year. Doesn't have an email address, does everything out of an internet cafe, doesn't even have an office. So I really think for your upper echelons, for the people that are exposed to the new way of doing things in the new age, those are the people that are really going to adapt quicker. And the rest of South Africa is going to move slower into the adaptation of this so-called new world and new life. And up until there is an equal opportunity for everyone to be able to access this new life, there are always going to be in limitations. That is where you will then still see the traditional ways of doing things still coming into factor, or still coming into the way in which we do business, because you can't necessarily exclude a market completely out purely because they are then discriminated. That is you cutting off your sale at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, mate, we've come to the end of this thing.
Thank you.
And by the way, it's one of those things that I try to do. Keep the interviews short and interesting. Don't keep them boring, because then people will run away from you. Data is very expensive. So what is the one thing that you just want to leave us as a thought with?
Just a simple two-liner, focus on developing your mind, soul, and body. Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. God bless.
You must have a great evening. Thank you, Bulelani Balabala.
Thank you.
So, dear hustlers, tomorrow, well, I'm putting them on the spot because I've sent them a request and they have not responded. So they have no choice now that you guys know it. Proudly South African is running a campaign looking for fashion designers who are SMMEs and who can design and sell masks. So they are going to help you promote it through their platforms, and they already have potential buyers for your masks that you design and sell. So it's not a middleman kind of business. So I'm inviting you tomorrow evening. If you are in fashion design and you can do amazing stuff, proudly South African will be joining us tomorrow evening, 7:30 p.m. as usual, to talk to you and help you to grow your business, because this is the time for your business. You've been thinking, what am I going to do with my design expertise? Now you can make masks that look fashionable, and proudly South African can take you to the next level. Do remember to subscribe to our YouTube page, Talk with Rams, because that's where all this content and more goes into. It's not only on Facebook, we actually get much more content on that page on YouTube. So please subscribe to the page. Please press your notifications on Facebook, and please participate. We're back tomorrow evening, 7:30 p.m. Thank you very much to my guest, Bulelani Balabala. Thank you very much to Freddie, my visit. Now today, this show has been produced remotely from elsewhere. We're becoming so smart. So Frederick, thank you very much, mate. And from me, Rams Mabote, good night and God bless.